Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Charlie Sennott. I live on Bolton Road, and I'm very honored to be emceeing the rebirth of a great tradition in our town, and that is the public reading of the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America. Thank you all for coming. I just want you to know that we have put a ban on tea in effect at the general store. Today we're just going to hear about this document. I'm going to introduce it before we start the official reading. And before we even get to that, I want to draw your eyes to this beautiful copy of the Declaration of Independence. And this has been dedicated to the town by Jennifer Combs and her family. And it will hang proudly in the town library, our beautiful library that every day amazes me. And to introduce this document and its history is Jennifer Combs.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to tell you the story of this framed edition of the Declaration of Independence. This was given by, my grandfather had about 100 of these printed in 1965. He was an immigrant from Russia, and he grew up on the Lower East Side of New York and joined the American Heroes Club as part of the Henry Street Settlement. And he had a big emphasis. He went on to be successful in real estate, and that followed philanthropy. And he particularly believed in libraries and education. And so he had about 100 of these printed in the 1960s. And this is the last one. All the rest have been given out. And I'm proud to give it to the town today. So enjoy the 4th of July. And I know he would have wanted us to remember the document that proclaimed our independence.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. I am going to turn off my cell phone, first of all. Sorry. Yeah. So this is a chance for us to really think about what this document means today. And it is really genuinely the rebirth of a great tradition in this town. I wanted to share with you some thoughts I put down on the plane ride home from Cairo, Egypt, covering a revolution that's happening right now and thinking about the revolution in our country. It's easy to forget just how radical were the words of our founding fathers in 1776. It's too easy to ignore the extraordinary responsibility they handed to us in establishing a government that is by the people, for the people. It's too easy to fail to reflect on the power of the ideas penned by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence from the British Crown. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words and the entire Declaration will be read here today by a cast of our town's people. They include Bob Island, Stephen Hayward, Ken Nygren, Carleen Phillips, Bill Johnson, Fiona Shea. And a special thanks to Ron Osberg for coordinating this event and inviting all of us to stand up on the stage and do this, and to many others who were part of putting this together. So here's to them. And Tim Clark, who's also going to get a special mention as our town selectman, who is up here reading this as well, and who I know so well I failed to write down on my little list of who's reading. And that's why he's a good representative, because he's raising his hand and saying he's here. Thanks, Tim. They are going to read, including Tim Clark, our selectman, so that we might remember the meaning of the words, to reflect on them, and maybe allow ourselves to hear them in a new way, and perhaps even be stirred by them. They are words that are alive every day in the world around us. They're alive right here in the town of Harvard, Massachusetts, in its history. Carleen Phillips has delved into that history and uncovered archives that tell wonderful stories of how this town prepared a company of patriots to take up arms, how they gave up the drinking of tea, as do we in the general store. I haven't actually cleared this with the owners of the general store, but I think it's a good movement for the people to start. The words also are with us every day, and I think they thunder out around us. They're alive in our town meetings and in our state and national political discourse and in conversations we share over early morning cups of coffee in the general store. They're really alive if we want to hear them, and you can hear them sometimes thunder out in the form of artillery shells from Fort Devens, where servicemen and women are practicing to go over and fight for the freedoms that are defined in this declaration. They are words that echo out across the world into corners of the globe where people still struggle for the kind of freedoms we have. As a foreign correspondent, I've had the chance to be on the front lines of history over the years. And now, as the founding editor of Global Post, I work with correspondents all over the globe who cover the yearnings of people who look up to Jefferson's ideals of universal rights and to the way those words are woven into the national constitutions from France to the Philippines and to the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. But just as often, we are covering people in the world who challenge America to truly live up to the great promise of these words. They make that challenge, I think, in the same way great Americans like Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King Jr. challenged us in this country to extend the freedoms to all, no matter color or creed. It's right to ask ourselves on the 4th of July how we are living up to these ideals, and how are we inspiring others to live up to them in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, where democracy is gasping for breath in a difficult birth. As we begin to wind down our troop presence in these two wars, we should ask ourselves if we can see Iraq and Afghanistan as Jefferson saw the British, enemies in war, in peace friends. I'm just back from Egypt, where a revolution by the people recently toppled a tyrant. I was there on the street to watch this revolution unfold, and in my 25 years of foreign reporting, the revolution in Egypt is the most inspiring story I've ever covered. It was about a largely nonviolent uprising that succeeded in a revolution. Whether it will succeed in creating a democracy will be seen in the coming months as they hold elections and they write a new constitution. The Constitutional Congress that will draft that document will turn its eyes to this document, to this declaration. Egypt presents a challenge to the words in this document, but also a test for America's foreign policy, forcing us to choose between the stability we crave and the ideals of democracy that we share. In Egypt, the fact is America supported a despot for a long time, for 30 years, until the people of Egypt rose up in rebellion on January 25th and just 18 days later overthrew Hosni Mubarak. They gathered by the hundreds of thousands in a Cairo square called Tahrir, or Liberation Square. There were 800 people who died as martyrs of the violence of the collapsing regime, just as our freedom fighters were martyred in a fight for liberty in the Boston Massacre. The Egyptian revolutionaries were called to the streets by Twitter accounts and by Facebook pages, just as the earliest American patriots were called to revolt by town criers and printed pamphlets. Indeed, the spirit of revolution, the words of this document, are alive all around us. It's with us right here today if we allow ourselves to listen and truly take in the words. Thank you.